Hi there, everybody. It's Deirdre here, and today I am having a lovely chat with my friend Chantal, who is a past life therapist and also does guidance readings and other things as well. As you all know, I'm from Starwise. I'm an astrologer, and within astrology, we do a lot of work with past lives as well because your past lives always will have an influence on this life. So, in your astrology, we can look at what influences, what gifts and talents, what ancestral karma, what all the things you've brought through from other lifetimes that you're here to heal and resolve in this lifetime. Chantal, I'll hand over to you now. You can introduce yourself and let people know a little bit about how you work and what your work's all about.
My name is Chantal. I live in Europe, in France, but I was born in England, grew up in the States, then moved back to London when I was 20 in the late 80s. And how I came to this work was bit by bit, but basically I had a very powerful reading by an astrologer when I was 31 years old, and it was a big part of my spiritual awakening that opened me up to want to learn more about spirituality, my intuition with tarot and the spirit world, and eventually past life reading. And when I was in my early 40s, I had another spiritual awakening. And I was pushed to propose healing to people, guidance readings, and then I learned past life therapy with Dolores, who's very well known for her books Between Death and Life, also the Three Wave Volunteers on the New Earth, and her Convoluted Universe series and the Hidden Sacred Books of Knowledge. And all this was tied in with some learning I had in 2011 with our teacher, Margaret McElroy. All of that was a big part of where and why I am doing today what I'm doing today. And I love Deirdre's work because she's very intuitive and grounded. And I think we both find a link, don't we, with what's happened in the past, the energies of what's going on now, and how we can change our present life to find a um, better tools and better understanding and a sense of all that's going on and what we can do. Because things seem to be accelerating hugely, don't they, Deirdre,
Yeah,
more and more.
absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah. And from an astrological perspective, the busyness, the planet Uranus, which is the planet of change, has recently moved into Gemini. And so if we think it's been busy over the last 5 years or so, it's only going to take another step up from here. And like you, we were having a little chat before we started, and I really believe that the reason for all of this busyness is it's forcing us to rely on ourselves. It's forcing us to go within, and it's forcing us to know to come back to remember that we have all the power, we have all the authority, we have all the ability to think for ourselves and to make decisions for ourselves. So, with all this busyness, how do you think past life energy affects this busyness that's going on now, Chantal?
well, I think things are accelerating and people are becoming more and more pushed and aware of the changes to make in their life. And when people come for a session, they sometimes come because they think they come from elsewhere, another planet. We will come from elsewhere before coming to Earth, is my belief. But
Mm.
whether that's the case or not, for people even who don't believe in past lives, we can just look at it as a form of symbolism to help us release things that may be blocking us, a relationship, a karmic link, childhood issues. Often we're blocked by, when I say blocked, often an issue we have is linked to childhood, things to change in our current life and past lives. And it
Mm.
can also be in the womb life as well, when we were in the womb of
Mm.
our mother.
Yeah.
All these things are orchestrated by the universe. And I've never studied astrology, but when I had my session that was very powerful, I sort of imagined people in space jumping from a star at the right moment, the right hour, the right time, and the right body to with everything aligned as they should be for the experience they were supposed to have.
Yeah.
And it's really, really interesting. So I feel that people are feeling more pushed to sort things out in their lives, that they're
Mm.
unable to tolerate certain situations.
Yeah.
And whether it's because they're depressed and they're fed up, whether it's because outside events are pushing them, where all of a sudden, they've lost their job, they've got health issues, they're finally unable to get along with their partner, or problems with their children, or they're wanting to move away, whatever the reason. It's like things are accelerating so much. It's they're being pushed. They're being pushed, and
Yeah.
Carolyn Mace, who I study her work a lot, as well as Eckhart Tolle. Um, she talked the other day about something that made me think of something that you and I talked about as well, that things that used to happen 10, 15 years ago in the other part of the world, we sort of felt it was out there and not here.
Mm.
And Carolyn Mace was saying, as we are hearing things that are going on out there, we're actually feeling it here now. We're feeling this connected to everything that's happening around us, all of us as one, more and more. It's like we can't hide that connection anymore.
Mm.
And I think we're being pushed to yeah, align ourselves, to be aware, and to do something to, yeah, because I think there are a lot of interesting things going on in the world now.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think there were a couple of key words for this year, and one, this is, being 2025 is a number nine year, so it's definitely a year of endings.
Mm.
And I don't know about you, but there are so many endings going on. Everybody I know is either ending a relationship, ending a job, ending where they live, and people,
Mm.
people don't like endings sometimes, especially they don't like endings if you're not initiating it yourself or you're not in charge of that ending. So what people are finding is that this is all coming back to taking back your own power. And again,
Yeah.
and when we look into past lives in this, we could find that, some of us have had many lifetimes of being very much in our own power and very capable of looking after ourselves and taking the lead and doing what needs to be done. And then many lifetimes of being followers or being overly
Mm.
conditioned to do what we're told and not believing that we have the power to think for ourselves or do things for ourselves. So your past lives often show up in that way. And I know, I always remember Margaret teaching us about when we talk about people who are gay and, people who are born knowing that they're gay, like from the minute they're born, they know
Mm.
what sex they're attracted to and it's not the opposite sex. And I remember Margaret explaining to us that usually people who are born feeling that strong sense of, attraction to the same
Mm.
sex, and say it's a man and he's born and he finds himself still attracted to men. And so what will have happened with him is that his most recent relevant past lives, and it could have been the last 10 lifetimes that he's been born as a woman. And so his soul
Mm.
is so used to being with men as a woman that as soon as he's born, the soul just wants to carry on doing what it's always done before. It's not recognizing the fact that you're a different sex in this lifetime. It's just going with what it's used to. And this is where I think with past lives is that it's very easy to get stuck in past life energy because your soul
Mm.
just wants to take you back and help you. It just wants it. If you come across something in this lifetime that's familiar to your soul that it's done
Mm.
before, it will jump in immediately and go, "Oh, I know how to help with this. We've done this before. We did it back in the 13th
Yeah.
century." And of course, that's completely irrelevant and inappropriate to what the life is now. But it's just trying to help. So we're always being pulled back to our soul memories, how we've done things before, and then we can get very stuck there and just think, well,
Yeah.
this is the way it seems to work for me, so I'll just keep doing it this way. But it's not helping you to grow or evolve. You're still stuck in that old pattern of behavior. So how would you break that behavior with people?
Yeah, it's very interesting what you say. In fact, when I have people come for a session, uh, sometimes they say, "Well, I'm just curious. I'm not interested in anything but knowing my past lives." And I get them to focus what's not going well in their current life.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll say, "Well, I don't want to talk about that. Oh, no, it's no big deal." But as I push and we go forward, it's really understanding the things that it's getting. People are being awakened against their will sometimes. They don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, what's not going well now? Because we're being pushed to live more and more in the present moment and to trust in the present moment and to take risks. So I'm pushing them, well, what's not going on? Well, it could be an old relationship in the family where the person feels like that whatever they do never works out, they never succeed, nothing ever goes right. And so I push them to that issue. And that's how I try and help people today. Because sometimes people come and they say, well, I know I'm a star seed and I'm from this other dimension and I'm here on Earth and I'm very sensitive. Well, they haven't come here to hide from Earth. They've come here for a very specific reason with their wonderful energy. And so I try and get them to connect to that. So as you say, if they've maybe had many past lives where they were persecuted
Mm.
or they were terrified of speaking, or they were in a lot of wars, or they were very, very cloistered in a harem or a religious society or whatever, and they are being pushed to really shine and express themselves and all of that. So they often will find themselves in those situations in their relationships from childhood. The universe sets the stage for us before we jump from the space and go into our
Well,
astrological blueprint, don't they? What do
well,
you
we
think?
set the stage.
Yeah,
We choose
yeah,
it all ourselves
yes,
before we're
we
born, with the
do.
help of the
We do.
universe, of course. But
Yes,
this is
yes.
why, it's so important for people to take responsibility for their own lives because, you know, the main purpose, as I see it, of having lifetimes on the earth plane is to learn to disconnect from our emotional body. And that doesn't mean not to feel anything or be a zombie. What it means is to not allow your emotions to be in charge of you. We all have emotions and they're a very important part of us, but we cannot let them rule us. And this is where I see people get so stuck, where they're so stuck in what's happening to them and how they're feeling and what everybody around them's doing. And they forget that they have power within that. They can say no, they can create boundaries, they can leave, they can do all these things, but they just get caught up. And again, it could be a past life pattern, that person that's bullying them or that they feel very attached to in this lifetime and can't get away from could have been someone had a lot of power over them in another lifetime, or it
Yeah,
can also be the reverse. You've had the power all over them in the other lifetime, and you're
exactly.
back to see what it's like to have the shoe on the other foot.
It's seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like going
Yes.
back and seeing the bigger picture and the orchestra that the universe has placed, like
Yes.
we're on a stage in a play. And, it's, as you say, detaching from that emotion, that intensity, and moving away from it so we don't get stuck in that same addiction
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
Um, and I think this is Eckhart Tolle talks about the mind being addicted and going
Mm.
over and over and over.
Yes.
And we often think of addiction as drugs or alcohol, sex or food or whatever, but we all have an addiction of some sort, whether it's a fear or a behavior, something we use as a crutch, and unconsciously we're doing this, and when we go to past lives we understand, we connect the dots and we understand where that's coming from. And
Yes.
um
And as
you
human
know
beings, that's incredibly important to us to be able to understand what's
yeah,
going on. Because, until we can have that light bulb moment or have that epiphany of what's actually
yeah,
going on, we're stuck. We're floundering in an illusion. And this is another thing I feel that's really happened over this year. I mean, it's been such a big year astrologically with the major outer planets changing signs. And I mean, this does happen all the time in astrology, but very rare for so many major
Mhm.
planets to be changing signs in one year. It's huge. So it's really an awakening time or a remembering time. What's going on isn't anything new. It's all what we're remembering from other lifetimes. And I actually believe personally that where we're at now on the Earth plane is the time of Atlantis and Lemuria all over again, the sinking of
Mm,
Atlantis. And I also believe
yeah.
astrologically that anybody who's here having a lifetime at the moment who was born with the planet Chiron in Pisces or the planet Chiron
Ah,
in Aquarius was part of that
yeah,
Lemuria or Atlantis disaster all those centuries
wonderful.
ago. And we're back to make sure that it does not happen again. Because what
Yeah,
happened
that's
back then,
so
for people
interesting.
listening who don't know the story of Atlantis and Lemuria, where they were two very, very advanced civilizations a
Yeah,
long, long time ago, and they used the god energy, or the spiritual energy. They were telepathic, they could teleport, they could do all sorts of things using spiritual energy or god energy, and also using the resources of the earth plane. Everything that's here for us now was there then and more. And so, but
yeah,
as time went on, both Lemuria and Atlantis were different civilizations, but living like this. And as time went on, the Atlanteans started to become obsessed with technology to the extent that they forgot about the connection with God and the spiritual energy and the resources of the earth plane and how they could use and support them. Instead, they just wanted technology. And they became very cruel and very difficult with it. And so
Mm.
The Lemurians went to them and said, look, this has got to stop. This is not the way we're supposed to live. This is not the way forward. And the Atlanteans refused to change. And therefore, the entire continent of Atlantis sank. I mean, many of them survived. Not everybody drowned with it, but quite a few survived. And so, what happened then is the Atlanteans went out into the world, and the Lemurians retreated back into Middle Earth, back into the center of the earth, where they still are now. And so, what if we look around the world at the moment, this is exactly where we're going again. We've forgotten that we have all the resources we need. We've forgotten that we have all the energy, the love energy, which is what's going to change everything. It's all there.
Yeah.
We've just forgotten to use it, or we haven't been allowed to use it, been conditioned out of it. And so, we're all back here to absolutely make sure that this does not happen again. We cannot allow all these continents to sink again, for nothing, when it's just about human ego being in charge
Yeah.
rather than the love
Yeah.
energy being in charge.
Like the war of religion from centuries
Mm.
past
Yeah,
has become war of the self,
yeah,
the war of healing, the war, all wars that are manifesting on the outside is beginning with the inside. If we look,
yes,
we all have families we've been born into. They're all complicated stories, painful stories, trauma, difficult to forgive, to forget. When I say forgive, it's difficult to forget. It's difficult to get past it sometimes. And
yeah,
when we go, as you say, understanding is important. In a past life session, it's not only understanding on a conscious level, but it's above all the subconscious level, and so that we can just how can I say it, what I advise to people, another reason I try and get people to really concentrate on their daily life is because there are a lot of these what I call the little big things in life that we say aren't important, but that are the most important, like smiling to someone when we do our grocery shopping who's, suffering, or it can seem very small and insignificant, but it's vast. Waking up in the morning and sending a prayer to people, or biting our tongue. We want to say something sarcastic to someone. I mean, I'm becoming aware of how important that is
mm,
and how those little big things in life are
yeah.
important in
Which
our
is that
daily lives.
authenticity again, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel it's super big. And what you're saying about the changing, I'm meeting a lot of people around me where in the relationships, families, friends, work, everything is either exploding, coming to a head, and bursting.
Yeah.
And I'm finding around me, I don't know about you, Deidre, where a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, this person said that, and what's happening?" And la 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 la. And I've just said, "Look, just take a step back and concentrate on yourself,
Mm.
and get out of the gossip of everything that's going on, because that family gossip, friend gossip, people gossip, it's also going into the governments and our the problems that are going on with money and all this stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, I notice that things are changing, and uh I'm a Gemini, rising Scorpio, and I know that the Uranus energy's there. I feel it's moving to force me to want to think and to react differently.
Yeah. And
It's
it will really,
stronger than
and
yeah.
being a Gemini, what you'll find is your life is going to get quite hectic and quite busy. And again, and it's going to, because it's forcing you to go within, to actually align yourself. And I think we're all going to find, because Gemini energy is such a curious energy and Uranus is all about change, that we're all going to be presented with a lot of opportunities for change. And the thing is that you can't do everything, but the energy is going to make you want to.
Yeah.
I want to have a bit of this and I want to have a bit of that. And we can't, I mean, one of the challenges with Gemini energy is that insatiable curiosity, but that
Mm.
insatiable curiosity means that you're constantly exploring things and looking at things, but you're not completing them. You're not putting the energy
Uh,
into them to get them somewhere. And so this is what we're all going to be confronted with all of these opportunities. And so we've got to learn discernment. I kind of feel that discernment will be the word maybe for next year, for 2026, being a number one year.
Interesting.
Discernment, because
Mm.
we've got to know discernment and discipline, because we've got to
Yeah.
know what's good for us. We've got to stop
Yeah.
thinking one size fits all. Everybody says we should do this, so let's do that. We've got to come back to, actually, does that feel right for you? And if it doesn't feel right for
Mhm.
you, you don't do it.
And being disciplined as well
Mm.
in the addictions of the past,
Yeah,
behaviors or whatever. You mentioned discernment, um, and as you say, what's right for one person,
yeah,
it can be completely different. So you're saying the when Uranus was in Taurus, it was less intense than it is in an air sign. Is
yes.
that what you're saying, Deidre, for
Yes, but
everyone
it's
across the
different,
board?
different learning, different learning. So
Different
Uranus and
learning.
Taurus was
Okay.
about grounding us and making us more aware of what we are capable of, and of what's,
Mm,
of bringing people together. Because your Taurus energy is very hands-on. It likes to work alongside people. It likes to work at sort of on a horizontal level. It's not that top-feeding energy that we've been become very conditioned
yeah.
by. It's that more equal energy, which is what the Aquarian energy is about too. Now that we're in the age of
Mm,
Aquarius, so being in the age of Aquarius, the beautiful thing about Aquarian energy is that it encourages diversity. It encourages everybody to be different, dance to their own drum beat, do their own thing. But at the same time, it wants everybody to come together with all of those skills and all of those,
mm.
that uniqueness that we all have and turn it into something that a whole community can use or a whole village can use. So, I mean, I sort of feel going forward, the only way is to basically break down everything and go back to basics and start again in a better way. The
Yeah.
systems that we have now, we can't keep rebuilding on broken foundations. It just doesn't work. And we know this. We've done it year after year, century after century. We quite trying to rebuild on the old foundations. And I think the past life energy that's coming through is very much going to show us. I think a lot of people who are standing up, or not standing up, but are feeling this new energy and wanting a change for the highest good of all concerned, will have had many lifetimes of watching things unfold like this before.
Mm.
And they have
Yeah.
either been in positions of power where they could have done something about it, or maybe they instigated the whole thing. But they're the souls that are
Mm.
coming back now, as well as a lot of souls from other galaxies, other places, to change
Yeah.
things. And so it's our job, our generation. I mean, the children that have come through over the last around about 20, 25 years are very, very developed. And a lot of them are from
Yes,
other
definitely.
galaxies and things. And
Yeah.
they're so much more advanced than we are. So it's our job as being to be like, I was talking to someone about this yesterday, and it's almost like we're in the jungle and we've all got machetes and we're cutting the path through for these kids that are coming
Exactly.
to behind us that have got the skills. But the challenge for these kids is that they're very advanced and they all want to run before they can walk. So that's a bit
Mm.
of a problem is we've got to help these kids to realize that because they're born knowing that they're on a mission. They know that they're here to change the world, that they've got very important things to do, and that they have the solutions, but they're not there yet because they're still children. They're still growing
And
up.
there's I've noticed a lot of adults our age, they have children still living at home at the age of
Yes.
30,
Yes.
40,
Mm.
and the parents cannot get them out of the house and off their phones
Yeah.
and working. And another thing, we're talking the other day of how a lot of people say they want to live they want to live elsewhere. So let's say they live in the States and they want to live in the England, or they live in England, they want to live in Costa Rica, or
Yeah.
they say, oh, I want to move to Australia. And you were saying that people are wanting to leave New Zealand, and
Mm.
New Zealand and New York has always been beautiful places. I've always wanted to live for a little while and visit. And you're saying, but no, it's the same here. It's the same everywhere. That
Yeah.
everywhere is being shooken up
Yeah.
on a great, almost a tsunami level, where people are saying, well, and that's another thing that's interesting. People are saying, well, if I go to South America, I'll be away from everything. I'll be away from it. No, I don't think we can escape
No.
it,
No.
and
Yeah.
I think, well, speaking for myself, Deirdre, and I get the feeling with you that we've decided to be lighthouses in our given area
Yeah.
and not run off. I know for myself, because of my age now, I'm not going to do it, but I do feel that I've got to do the work staying where I'm at. But people who feel called to move elsewhere, they can. That's fine. But I think there's nowhere we can run as well. That
No, no. So you're
wherever we
running,
go,
you should be moving. Yeah, yeah. It's the same everywhere. And I mean, I work with people all over the world, and I hear the same story from
yeah,
every country around the world. So yeah, it is. It's not just here. It's not just where you are. The whole world is changing. And
yeah.
but the thing is, and I think this is really good because what we notice with human beings is, besides the fact that we're incredibly stupid and we only ever learn anything the hard way,
Oh
on top
gosh,
of
yes.
yeah, on top of that, until it actually, if whatever's going on in the world affects you personally, we don't react.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've forgotten how to
Mm.
come together to support one another. And that's another thing. And that's why bullying has become such a big thing worldwide as well, is that people are
Mm.
too scared to look after, step up to, take sides with the under, with the person that's being picked on. And it's this really sad way to look at society that we're still treating the people that we think aren't good enough in a bad way, whether it's a racist thing, whether it's a sexist thing, whether it's just I'm bigger than
Mm.
you or whatever it might be. And this is again, it's got to stop. We have got to start realizing that we're all the same. We're all human beings doing it differently, and there's
Yeah.
no right or wrong. There's just doing it
Mm.
differently.
Yeah, and we're all in the same boat, and we're all the behaviors we are often accusing other people, we have that in ourselves
Yeah,
that we can choose to react on or not.
yeah,
But you said something just before that just sparked something in my mind. You said something about how what was it you said just before? My apologies. How oh gosh, my apologies. Yeah, because I was thinking of many things at the same time. But yeah, so things that are happening like in the governments or whatever, I feel it is impacting us straight away when I'm watching something on the news. I feel it's happening just in my street.
yeah,
You know, I don't feel it's happening elsewhere. And I
yeah.
feel we're being called to stand up and say things. So that's you're talking about bullying, and that's interesting because around me there's a lot of I'm seeing a lot of people in conflicts
Mm,
between, between one and the other and
yeah,
everything. And there is that bullying that goes
yeah.
on where
And
people are
there's also
attacking one and the
yeah,
other.
and people
Mm,
projecting their own insecurity. I'm scared
yeah,
and frightened, so I don't like feeling like this. I'm going to push it all onto you. I'm going to get
yeah.
rid of it and put it
Mm,
there. But one thing I'd like to ask you about past lives. I was teaching a past life workshop myself over the weekend,
yeah.
and something that comes up quite often, and I'm never quite sure how to answer it, is that what we're very aware of. One of the things that shows us past life healing or what's needed in this lifetime
Mm,
are the fears that we carry. Often they come
yes.
from other
Yeah,
lifetimes, they're not about this lifetime.
exactly.
Now, the two most common fears that I've come across in the world are fear of heights and fear of drowning.
Mm.
So,
Ah, that's
why are they
interesting.
so common amongst everybody? How could so many people have drowned or fallen off a cliff or whatever? Why is that such a common fear? Why are they such common fears?
Very interesting. The height thing could be for many reasons.
Yeah,
There have been past lives where I've guided people into, well, not I've guided, but I've guided them with their soul to let their soul show them what they need.
yeah,
And sometimes people have been sacrificed from falling from a great height
yeah,
or pushed by a family member, or they were in a plane in a war situation,
yeah.
um, something like that. And it's sometimes often as well symbolic,
Mm,
falling from a great height in all the senses of the word, falling from a height, whether
yeah.
it's their reputation, as well as being pushed off a cliff or some
And
sort
it
of
could also
betrayal.
and it could also be the Fool card in the tarot too, taking a leap of faith.
Oh, oh, listen, that's interesting. Yeah, and before I forget, you were saying something about, you know, um, how times are changing and we're all being forced now, sort of like after the World War II, to be
Mm,
more in our fraternity, helping one another, to be
yeah.
more aware of the need of all that. And with falling from heights and all of that, yeah, there are many issues in past lives that people have fallen from a height, from a plane, pushed someone off, jumped off in a suicide. I've had several people had that the suicide issue of jumping and falling. Um, Also, or being hurt is when they were a bird or flying in a spaceship or all sorts of different things.
Mm,
The drowning, often it's, oh, for many reasons, like there's Atlantis, for
yeah.
example, where people have the symbolic fall and the catastrophe and feeling guilt because
Mm,
as the universe, we have the two faces of man. We have the destructive and the creative part. We have
yeah.
Jesus and Hitler, let's say, and
Yeah.
we have these forces within us. And what do we choose? And what is that experience with Atlantis? And um, it was abused, wasn't it? It was just went to the point where everything exploded. So
Mm,
people sometimes have memories of, oh, well, I wasn't able to stop it, or I
yeah.
was the one that wanted to
Yeah.
to go too far ahead in the experiments between humans and animals, for example,
Yeah.
or too
Yeah.
much technology with Atlantis trying to
Yes.
control the weather. So there's a residue of guilt. And so the
Yeah.
person feels that emotion, that water emotion of that, I didn't save them, or I tried to, or it didn't work, or I did too much, and then I fell into the water, and I had that the emotional and the impact of the sudden of all of that. So it could
Mm.
be that, or having been punished, accused of being a witch and thrown into the water, or
Yeah.
having drowned at sea, or having been a fish or a water element where and there was explosion, or being in the womb of the mother and having felt some sort of strangling happen with the with the
Cord.
umbilical
Yeah.
cord, and that can also have throat issues in expressing one's truth. I'm trying to think of other ones, but yes, the fear of water is a
Mm.
big one, and
Yeah.
it and connected to emotions and ships and traveling far away, maybe from a past life in Ireland, and you're traveling, and all of a sudden you're lost at
Yeah.
sea,
And
and
in
there's
the
that
early days, there were,
feeling.
the colonizing of other countries and traveling,
Yeah,
and indigenous people, I guess, also traveling to find better food, better shelter, whatever, and maybe their canoes or wakas being overturned and drowning in that way too. So, yeah, and I suppose we do have such a strong connection as human beings to the water. It's a big part of
exactly.
most countries at some somewhere
Yeah.
in their country there's the water, so there's always that movement. Yeah. What other thing I always people always find really interesting with past lives as well is that addictions. So addictions
Mm.
are
Oh God, that's a
earthbound.
big one.
So, if you are addicted to anything in this lifetime, whatever it might be, you have to
Mm.
give it up in this lifetime, or you're going to come back in your next lifetime with that same addiction, because addictions are earthbound. You cannot give them up in spirit because they don't exist in spirit. So the minute your body becomes a human body again, and the minute you smell out, say you're an alcoholic in another lifetime, the first time you have a drink in this lifetime, bang, you're going to be back into that addiction again, unless you give it up on a lifetime on the earth plane.
It's interesting. The addiction theme comes up very, very often.
Mm.
Another thing with the drowning, I thought as well, which is an addiction as well, can be well, let's say in a past life, people have come into sessions where they lived in very humid, damp environments, and they felt sort of their lungs were stifled emotionally, physically, with the water and everything.
Right.
And there were sometimes often addictions because in those times, people, all they had to live, was drinking, or there was smoking, or there was some sort of problem with that. But yeah, the addiction is a big thing as well,
Yeah.
whether it's um to do with cigarettes, alcohol,
Yeah.
drugs, whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, and they're forced to deal with the addiction
Yeah.
archetype again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is a super duper powerful thing. I
Absolutely.
know, yeah, and I receive a lot of people in sessions that do have the addiction thing.
Hmm.
And often when we give up one addiction, unconsciously we replace it with another. So let's say someone's got an addiction to sugar, which is alcohol as well, right?
Yeah.
Or it can be it can be all of a sudden addicted to a food,
Mm.
or something like that,
Yeah.
or all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But the addiction archetype asks us, as you say, discernment and being disciplined and being
Yeah.
aware of this. And instead of being obsessed about the addiction, we can try and channel it into something
Yeah.
that's healthy for us. That because
Yeah.
that addiction archetype means we have extreme intensity where we can go deeply into something and be only in that. We could become a workaholic. So if we can
Yeah.
channel it to something positive and learn to
Yes.
discernment and to be aware and to channel it and be disciplined. I mean, that's a big
Yes.
job for all of us, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
all these changes and conflicts of people changing their lives, things not going well, is to get us to be more, as you say, self-disciplined, aware, and discernment.
Yeah.
Um,
And taking that responsibility for yourself.
mm,
This is your life. What are you going to do with it?
yeah.
Are you going to
Exactly.
wreck it? Are you going to waste it? Or are you going to do something with it? And it always comes down to you. And again, we've been very conditioned to believe that we don't have the power to change our own lives. That,
Ah,
that's
definitely.
just a
Yeah,
fantasy, and only rich people can do that, or only talented people can do that, or whatever it might be. But we can all do it. But we just need to
yeah,
realize that we have that power. And that's what's been taken away with us. That's what we've been conditioned out of, which is, why the earth really is such a mess at the moment, because people don't believe in themselves anymore. And if you don't believe in yourself,
exactly.
how the hell's anybody else supposed to? How are you supposed to attract things? How are you supposed to grow if you're stuck in this belief, oh, I'm not really that good. I'm not really good enough. So to
Yeah.
me, everything comes back to self-love.
And exactly, and I think that's where we're going. And Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about the
Yeah.
mind,
Yes.
and these issues in past life come up in guidance readings where someone's had that already from their childhood,
Yeah.
and the person may say, "Oh, I never succeed. It never happens. I never manage it." Today I had a wonderful session with a man, um, and he felt stuck at some point. And he says, but I never succeed. I never get there, which was a symbolic of the past life we eventually got information from. It was hard for him to let go and let his logical mind from taking over. And in the past life, it was on another planet and he was unable to save the planet. And so he felt he had failed. And
Hmm.
in this life, he had felt that in his family and he came to work back on that issue in this life.
Yeah.
And you know, as you say, it's the confidence, but it's also getting past the mind
Yes.
that's got that running thing. So what I say to people, I say you've got to be very disciplined because we all have some sort of, when I say addiction, some sort of habit of getting past the mind that says, "Di-di-di-di-di-di-di." And I say, well, and they say, well, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, well, I love the expression, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
You've got to do the action. And
Yeah.
even if your mind says, I'm still depressed, it's not working, blah, 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 doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You be disciplined and you be adult and you do it.
Yeah.
So, like we say to a child, well, you're throwing a tantrum, you're crying, you don't want to go to school, you don't want to eat your lunch. Okay, don't eat your lunch, but you do have to go to school. I'll come and collect you. We all have in our daily lives these things, the discipline of we just have to get on with it
Yeah.
and not sit around too much, um, giving too much time to this.
Yes.
And the
We've got
more
to,
we do that, the more it changes, even if we don't see it straight away.
yeah.
Because the sadness and the fear we're feeling as well, Deidre, I believe, is not just from our own personal lives,
No, it's
but what's going
collective.
on the collective, isn't it?
Mm.
We're picking up on that.
And especially if
And
you're a sensitive person.
yeah, yeah. And I think people who say they aren't sensitive, they are, but they've just sort of stifled it like a
Yeah.
volcano.
Well, they think it's a weakness, but actually being sensitive, it allows you to be empathetic, and it
Oh gosh,
also
yes.
breeds creativity. So it's a very powerful thing to allow that sensitivity to be a part of your life. Very important.
It's a great strength. And often we think to express anger and sadness is showing weakness, but in fact, it's through that vehicle that we liberate
Mm.
ourselves,
Yeah.
is feeling that fear and that pain and that
Yeah.
uncertainty.
So when
Because we are vulnerable and powerful at the same time. It's a beautiful force we have,
yeah,
the
yeah.
kindness and the love as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that we really with the head stuff that we all get really stuck in what's going on in our
Yeah,
heads because we're as human beings we think we're supposed to rationalize everything and
yeah,
make everything make sense in some logical practical way, but really the only way forward is to drop into the heart and to feel your way into things, because the logic is one side of things, and then what you feel, your intuition, which is the other thing that's been very much shut down, is the other part of you that and that's why the divine feminine absolutely embraces that intuitive energy within us. And so
yeah,
we've got to, when we allow that to be what we feel to be true, to have as much relevance in our life as what is logically true, then we really grow. But when we only rely on logic, or if you only rely on your intuition, that's also not ideal because you're too woo woo, you're up in la la land all the time. You've got to be grounded. And so you need
yeah,
both of those parts of yourself. And so this is what people, I think everybody is intuitive, everybody.
yeah,
But
definitely.
most people don't use it, or people don't even realize that they are. Usually because
Yeah.
your intuition is something that comes very simply, very easily to you. So if it's like I was 38 years old before I realized, I thought everybody knew things about other people. I thought it was the most normal thing in the world to walk into a room, know what that person was
Mhm.
feeling, know what that person might be about to go through, and know where that person had been. I just thought that everybody did that. But then I was 38 before I realized, no, actually, not everybody does do that. And so often we have these knowings, these beliefs, these very deep things within us, and they come so naturally to us that we don't realize that they're a gift or a talent or something we need to learn from.
Yeah, and there are people who say they're very scientific and they're not connected,
Mm.
but we're all connected. And
Yes.
it's just it will come through in a different way. So maybe someone who's extremely scientific gets his information for his medicine and finding new cures just through it comes through that way,
Yeah.
or it comes through a feeling or a knowing
Yeah.
or through synchronicity. I mean, we're all getting it in different ways, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think people are, and I was going to ask you, do you think the planet Uranus, you say Uranus, it is forcing with its speed, you say it's a speedy planet, that's forcing us to become more aware of all these things
It's a
now?
planet of change, so it's going to keep initiating change in your life. And
Okay.
change is something that most people don't like unless they initiate it themselves. When
Exactly.
someone
Yeah.
else moves the goalpost, it's not a good thing. And so we're going to keep getting this change till we learn to go within and to actually
Yeah.
feel our way into things and to realize, okay, this is all too busy for me over here, so I'm just going to do what I think's best for me
Yeah.
rather than, oh
Yeah.
no, I've got to be involved. I've got to take a piece of this. I've got to do that because that's what everybody else is doing or that's what's expected of me.
Mm,
We've got to come back to what do you want? What makes you happy? What brings you peace? What brings you joy? And if it's not what
mm,
everybody else is doing, that's absolutely fine. Embrace it. And this is why this beautiful energy of Aquarius is really encouraging everybody to be who they truly are, not to have to conform or not speak up about things that they feel or know or intuit. It's really encouraging people to be happy, to be different. And then we've got the big planets that have moved into Aries this year as well. So Aries is the
okay.
first sign of the zodiac. So what we had 15 years, the last 15 years, we had Neptune in Pisces. And so
Mm,
when Neptune was in Pisces, we basically had 15 years of illusion, of not being able to see the woods for the trees. And so now that
mm,
but it was also a 15 years of dabbling in spiritual knowledge and awareness, where a lot of people were, trying out new modalities, maybe learning Reiki, maybe learning to meditate, or maybe, channeling, whatever. Everybody was sort of playing around with stuff. But, it was almost like playing with it and not actually doing anything with it. And so
yeah.
then about 3 years ago, Saturn moved into Pisces, and Saturn's the planet of structure that gives us, he's the teacher, the disciplinarian. And so when he moved into Pisces, he started to ask you, okay, you want all these fantasy things with Neptune. You want to be a healer, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to be a creator, whatever. You can only do that if you create structure. You can't just wing things. You can't just decide, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be this. You've got to do the work. You've got to have structure. You've got to have a plan. And that's what Saturn brings in. So now that both of these planets have moved into Aries, we get to become spiritual warriors. We get to take our spiritual goals and aspirations, create structure within them so they can actually work and come true. So we're coming into a very, very powerful time for us all personally because Aries, being the first sign of the zodiac, it's the I am energy. So it's very easy under the influence of Aries to put yourself first because it comes naturally to you. But under the energy of Pisces, the last thing you do is put yourself first. So we've got this huge support from the universe to all become more empowered, to become more confident in ourselves, to have stronger beliefs, and to make the changes that we need to make within ourselves.
Do you think these big changes worldwide is also forcing us? I feel it's all part to get us to get moving
Yes,
and to make the changes we need to make and
yes,
to reconnect to this solidarity, um,
yeah. And we all,
kindness, love
yeah,
between one another. I think that is so vital
yeah.
to
And
start
we
just
all choose
locally.
we choose our lives before we're born. So everything that's going on in the world now, and everybody who's
Mm,
going through whatever they're going through, chose to do this before they were born to
yeah,
help the
yeah,
collective, but because of their own personal growth, but for the collective growth. So we look at the absolute appalling things that are going on in Gaza in particular. And we've got
yeah.
to know it's just it's diabolical. And I honestly, people who are involved in that are so completely and utterly disconnected from their heart and their soul. It's unbelievable because that is not the way a human's supposed to behave. And
No,
so
no,
when we look at that, we've also got to remember that each and every one of those people chose to play this role in this lifetime
exactly,
to help the collective and
exactly.
help humanity. And it sounds an awful, awful thing to choose to do, but it actually is an amazing thing to do for you to sacrifice your life, your happiness, your family, so that the world can learn a lesson. They're very, very evolved souls, every single one of them, and we need to thank them all for what they're doing for us.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think every role of every person that's going on in the world now is orchestrated in such an intricate, powerful way
Yeah.
that when we look back on this, when we're in the spirit world or another life in the future, and we read the history books, and we're going to say, well, why were humans so stupid not to save water and stop cutting
Yeah.
down trees? Were they dumb or what? I mean, and we
Yeah.
do, a lot of us do think, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's going to be like what we read now and hundreds of years before. Well, why do they do that? Well, we're doing the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
And as you say, it comes back to the really connected to the heart energy and the love and the kindness.
Mm.
And in the past life regression sessions, often people say, "Well, I'm sick of the government and I'm sick of life and I hate the world and I hate humans." I said, "Well, hang on, you're a human and I'm a human, and why don't we just start with the daily life at home?"
Yeah.
Because it sometimes, Deirdre, and I completely understand, and I think we all feel this way sometimes. We think, well, what good is it doing to just save one animal or save one tree? It's only not even a drop in the ocean, but that drop is extremely powerful,
Exactly.
much
Exactly.
more than we can be aware of. A
Yeah.
prayer, and when I say a prayer, is to really send that out, knowing that the energy around us is gonna do something. Our intention, our love, the kindness, a smile. It is super duper important. I'm becoming more and more aware of that. And even if we don't see the result like we would like to see it now, we still need to water our garden. We still need to think of the people we love, nature, our gardens, our animals. We got to do what we can do with what
Yeah.
we can do,
Yeah.
and awakening and being more aware to that. So sometimes that goes through the chaos, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when people say, well, how can so and so be president? And how can so and so vote for this? And how that? Well, that's all part of our learning and where we're supposed to be going.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that I'm happy with certain people who are elected, but I know it's part of the bigger thing.
Yeah. They're
Um,
playing their role.
Exactly. People
Yeah.
in Ukraine that have had their homes destroyed. I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking. But they chose, those brave souls, to live that.
Yeah.
And perhaps you and I and other people, we did that in the last past life, and now we're
Yes.
doing things in a different way. I mean, when I say we're all in the trenches, obviously there are extremes, aren't there? But
Yeah.
we're all in the trenches in one way or the other, and we're all
Yeah.
having to be aware of that, more
Yeah. And I think
sensitive
that,
to that.
everything comes back to you as an individual. And so there would be no war on the planet if people weren't at war with themselves.
Exactly. And
So
it
we've all
starts
got to
more of
do
the
the inner
self.
work. And the
Mm,
more you work on yourself and find your peace,
yeah,
find your kindness, find your alignment,
yeah,
the more
mm,
everything is energy. So you're sending out that energy, and that affects the collective as well as yourself, and it starts to
definitely.
improve. So
Mm,
this is what we've all got to, and this is what's been taken away from us, is this knowing that we are all creators and that we all have energy that can help, and we've been dulled down, we've been trapped down, and that's been taken away from us. So it's really important to step back into that as well and know what we're here for. And this is also when we talk about past lives, we can see, what strengths and weaknesses we had in other lifetimes. If you've been a leader
definitely.
in many lifetimes, then you
Hmm.
can be a leader again. And what's also, when I'm doing past life work with people, one of the things that actually tends to come up with me the most with people with past lives is people that they have issues with in this lifetime. So either someone that they just cannot get
Mm,
along with, or
yeah,
somebody that they're infatuated with. And more often
yeah,
than that, that is absolute past life energy. That's come
yeah.
through, because everything is energy. So I often use this as an example in classes I'm teaching, where you might have been, say, World War II, and you're a woman and you were betrothed to a man and you were madly in love with each
Mm.
other, and then he went off to war and was killed. And so you never got to get married, you never got to have
Yeah.
sex, you never got to have children. All of those things were like potential for that lifetime that never got used up because other things happened. And so when you come across that person again in this lifetime, that energy is reactivated. And you could be completely happily married, and suddenly this person from another lifetime comes along, and your soul
Mm.
recognizes their soul and goes, "Oh, we were in love. We were going to get married back in 1941. Let's go back and do that."
Mm.
But of course, it's
Mm.
completely inappropriate. And so that's a really, I find that a really good exercise to do with people, is to go back into their past lives, do a regression or an Akashic Records
Mm.
meditation, to get them to go and see what relationship have you had with this other person in other lifetimes, and what is left over to be sorted out in this lifetime, and then get on with
Yeah.
it, rather than leaving your marriage and going and having an affair or doing all those things that aren't actually, I mean, the energy's there that can encourage you to do that because that's what it feels like, but that's not the, and you, but at the same time you're knowing this is not the right thing to do to another,
Exactly.
yeah, so
And
it
when we
gets
go
really
back, we
tricky.
go back to the past life,
Mm.
we go and see all of it from the
Yeah,
beginning to the death.
yeah,
And it's all about connecting how it's affecting this life. So
yeah.
while we're living, as Margaret used to say, we're living 85% of our life is
Yes,
past lives
yes,
energy.
absolutely.
And it's so true. And so
Yeah,
like while we're living in 2025, there can be issues going on from 1625,
yeah,
can be a parallel life, can also be a future life, but very
yeah,
often there are many things all connected. And
yeah.
when we understand it, so like as you say, and that's a good example because I've had people in regressions where they've met someone, like in their marriage, things are a bit, complicated on the communication side. And all of a sudden this other person comes in and they're thinking, I feel something for that person, but it's not really, I know we shouldn't be together for various different reasons.
Yeah.
And I still love my husband, but I don't know how to deal with that overpowering attraction, what's going on there. And we discover, as you say, there's that something that was not completed. But
Yes.
in addition to that thing not being completed, there's something perhaps in the current life relationship with the husband, part of a theme of what they've come to work on,
Mm. Yeah.
things not being completed, not
Yeah.
following their heart, or I don't know. But it really helps because on a we have the conscious level, which is the mind and the ego, and then the subconscious level with the past lives. And sometimes people will say, well, what if I've made it all up? And I say to them, well, does it make sense? Oh, 100%. I've not had anyone
Yeah.
today,
And the
up
other
until
and the
today,
other
say
thing
it's
I say,
never made sense.
yeah,
It normally resonates because it makes sense to something in their life. And they
yes,
think, now I know why I have that intense fear or pain or
yeah,
agony,
yeah,
and it goes away. It
yeah,
goes away. Yeah.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
also, just that realization that yeah, when you can make that connection between this is now and that was then, and really
Exactly.
realize, what it is that's going on here. But that we and the other thing with people from past lives that we've been with before, we reincarnate in soul groups, so there's around about 25 souls to every soul group. And so as soon as you come across somebody in this lifetime who's part of your soul group, it's not necessarily love at first sight or anything like that. What it usually
Yeah.
is, if you've been with someone and had a really good solid relationship, or they're part of your soul group from other lifetimes, the minute you meet them in this lifetime, you just feel 100% comfortable with them. They're so
Yeah.
familiar, and you can meet that person and then not see them again for 20 years, and then as soon as you see them
Yeah.
again, bang, you just click up where you left off, because there's
And it
that
doesn't mean,
soul, deep soul connection.
yeah, it doesn't mean you'll be married to them forever
No,
because
no,
maybe
they
you've
might
been
just be
married to
someone
them
that comes into your life for 5 minutes, but there's still that
exactly
familiarity.
because you've already done that in a past life. Maybe in
Yeah.
this life you want to work on different issues.
Yeah.
And
So they just pop in as a soul
yeah.
group, you pop in to help each other along the way. Not all of you reincarnate together in the same lifetime. And so you pop in,
Mm.
you might be in one lifetime, that's my brother. The next lifetime, it's a colleague at work. The next lifetime, it's a neighbor where you live for 2 months or something. It doesn't have to be a huge impact on your life, but they always come in to help you to take the next step, or to face a fear or to overcome some sort of hurdle in your life. But they're always around you, and just be aware of those people. They're the ones that you feel the most comfortable with, and they're the ones that will always yeah, they're there to help you and assist you and support you in this lifetime in some way. But also,
Mm.
some of the people that have treated you the worst in this lifetime
Oh,
can
I was
also
going to
be
say
part of your
this
soul group, and they've sacrificed a
exactly.
lifetime of friendship with you to teach you something really important. And so again, those people that have trashed you in this lifetime, please forgive them, because if you look at the situation that they put you through or what you ended up doing with them, you learned something really important from that. So let go of the anger or the lack of being able to forgive them, and realize if that person hadn't done that, you wouldn't be the person you are today and have this new attitude or perspective or whatever it might be.
Your enemies in this life can be your best friends in spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we heard that from Margaret, didn't we?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that is a big thing.
Yeah.
But I know that for myself, when I remember things from complicated relationship issues, when I saw what had happened before, everything fell into place.
Yeah.
Everything made sense.
Yeah.
And what was so powerful with that was the feeling of that 200 years ago
Yes.
was so powerful like it's
Yes.
today.
Yeah.
Dolores Cannon talks about, and Eckhart Tolle touches on it. I think all the spirituality that we're learning and the spiritual teachers, it's all the message said in a different way. But all that's happening now as well, so that we realize that we can let it go. So sometimes people come in to forgive, and when I say to forgive, as you say, understand what was that past
Mm.
life link, what were they bringing to teach us, and what do we need to do now to let it go so that we can really forgive ourselves and let go of that old past pain or
Exactly. And
agony.
yeah, and
Mm.
this lifetime, I mean, spirit is sick of us reincarnating lifetime after lifetime, repeating the same things over and over again and going nowhere. And so this lifetime is our last lifetime to deal with karma. So this is why this
Mm.
lifetime is also a very challenging one for most people, because we're trying to get rid of all that stuff that we've been constantly going over lifetime
Yeah.
after lifetime and not making nearly enough progress in. Because our next lifetime, we need to be able to start with a clean slate, because the
Mm.
world is
Okay.
changing. So our next incarnation here will be in a different world to the one that we live in now. And so we can't bring all the baggage from all those other lifetimes back into a new world, or we're just going to go right back to where we stuffed up in the first place. We've got to have a whole brand new beginning. So
But I
everybody,
do.
who's going through a lot of stuff, just know that you are burning off incredible amounts of karma. You're absolutely,
Mm.
cleansing your soul for the future. So yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's hard, but it is absolute an amazing thing. Don't run away from your lessons and your fears. Face them, because on the other side of that is your freedom and your liberation as a soul and as a human being in this lifetime.
It's interesting you were talking earlier about Atlantis and again coming up to things coming up to a boil, to where things may explode. And
Yeah,
I think things are exploding symbolically,
yeah,
the world climate, people, the relationships, the banking, everything.
yeah,
And I think there are things we can change, but are being forced to change.
yeah.
And sometimes, as you know, like when there's like a health issue, what's the body telling us to change in our life?
Yes,
And when we
yes,
don't listen the first time, second time, third time,
yeah,
because we have our mind and then we have our soul, and both of them are very powerful. But life sometimes brings us to our knees until we
yes.
listen to what we got
Certainly
to do.
does.
And
Yeah.
this is what I'm finding a lot in sessions. People saying, well, I don't know, what is my life mission? What am I here for? And I said, well, your life mission is not just work. It's
No.
we're all come to be part of this world and to do what we need to do and
Yes.
to
And people really
um
seem to think that their mission in life or their purpose in life is to become a doctor or to sail the world or to paint an oil painting or whatever. Your purpose in this life is to find your peace. And
Yeah,
that's your purpose
definitely.
through whatever lessons you've come here to do that through. So some people are here to learn to find their peace by being kinder. Some people are here to learn by creating
Mhm.
boundaries. Some people are here to learn to be happy and create their peace by being very successful in life too. But we've all got our own journey towards that. But the end goal, I mean, your life purpose isn't about what you're here to achieve materially or in a career or
Mhm.
anything. Your life purpose is about what your soul is trying to learn in this lifetime. It's not, and so people, and this is, I also find people can get quite addicted to past lives, especially if they find out they've been a queen or a multi-millionaire or some incredibly celebrity in another lifetime. So, oh, let's do more of this. So we want to find out who we were. What
Mhm.
about who you are now? That's more important actually than who you were back then.
Yeah,
Come
and
back to the now.
many people can have imprints or programmings of having, lived a life as someone famous.
Yeah,
Many that soul can be through several souls that have lived that
yeah,
experience. Um, so it's like, what do you do with it now? And why do they need to know that past life for their life today?
yeah,
And as you say, it can be a karmic
yeah,
relationships with people,
yeah,
a behavior and addiction, confirmation of, I need to really start writing and express my, let's say, your clairvoyant abilities, or to become a specialist in throat medicine or whatever, to be a
yeah,
singer or a painter or whatever. But as you say, the thing is, it's through those mediums of being a doctor or a painter, whatever, you're doing your soul mission to bring love or to bring peace. I like to often say two things that um the little big things in life. We're so worried and bogged down by finances, decisions, family, being hurt or upset. And if we can just take a little time every day to look at the little big things in life, watching a good program on television, sometimes having a cry over a good movie, doing some
yeah,
gardening, good plate of
absolutely.
food, stuff like that.
Yeah.
These are things I think maybe simplicity.
Yeah. And
You're
I
talking about
always remember about
authenticity.
Margaret telling us that we all needed to have self days when you allowed your ego
Yeah,
to
that's
have a
right.
day, because if you keep squashing the ego down, the ego has no real interest in your happiness or your peace or your tranquility. It just wants to be in charge at all times and keep you in fear because then it feels
Yeah.
powerful. So every
Mm,
now and then we've got to let the ego out of the box, because really, what we're doing is we're mastering the ego so that we're in charge of the emotions, because the ego rules the emotions. And so, but every now and then you've got to let it out of the bag or else it's going to drive you nuts. So every now and then you're allowed to have a day to lie on the couch and drink wine and watch videos and eat
yeah.
chocolate. Whatever you want to do it. But
Mm.
don't do it for weeks. That's the problem. Don't get stuck there.
Yeah.
But
And don't
definitely,
feel guilty doing it. Don't sort of
no,
like beat
just
yourself up,
enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can have bad days too, can't we? Where we don't want to speak to anyone and we want to be a bit
And
grumpy
that's
or
okay too.
whatever, because
Yeah.
we're human and we're part of nature. When we look at nature, and I think, I tell people we look at nature, we're cells, we're here to create, and we're
Yeah.
creating whether we want to or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to trust as well, which is difficult, isn't it? When we
Yeah.
look at what's going on in the world, to trust
Yeah.
it, that
So what
whatever
you can
happens,
trust though is yourself. You've got to be able to
yeah,
trust yourself.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
not always going to make the right decisions, but that doesn't mean that you still can't trust yourself. Because when you make the wrong decision or you mess it up, you learn something from it. So then you go, okay, well, I'm not going to do that it this way the next time because I've just learned that this isn't the right way to do it. So
yeah,
we've got to keep stepping up and stepping forward. And this is what the pressure's on all of us now start stepping up in your own life to be a better version of
Mhm.
yourself, to be authentic. What you put
Mm,
out on the outside is exactly who you are on the inside, and to discipline
yeah,
yourself to get to be that better person that you've come here to be. It's really important for everybody to really step into their power right now.
yeah. Faith, um, discipline, humility, and love.
Yeah,
When I say humility, realizing how little we are in this big world.
yeah,
And we don't know how long we have, but to try and enjoy it and tell the people that you love them,
yeah,
or
yeah,
if you can't say it to them because it's difficult, to send
yeah,
out your heart.
Yeah.
of that. I mean, when I look back when I was young, being young, it's so different, isn't it? And looking back now, so much makes so much
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But the most important things are the friendships and the love and the little
And the
big things in
self-love.
life. Yeah, yeah. And that's, yeah, the self-love. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we're all being pushed. And you were talking about the planet of this change,
Yeah.
Uranus
Yeah.
pushing and changing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all going on. So, we'll wind this up now. So,
Yeah.
Chantal, how can, if people wanted to have
Thank
a
you.
past life regression session with you, do you work online as well as in person?
I do. Now, I do Dolores Cannon's method only in person. I'm not
Okay.
allowed to do that online, but
Mhm.
I do, and that's QHHT. So people can come and see me. I have French clients and English clients. Sometimes they come on holiday from afar and they have a session in English or French. But I also do what's called Beyond Quantum Healing hypnosis sessions, and I can do that online. And
Great.
also introspective hypnosis as well, where
Right.
we connect to the origins of trauma and introspective hypnosis.
Good.
And beyond quantum healing
Yeah.
is the version of QHHT, but online,
Mhm.
using different inductions and a different way of working. So I respect Dolores Cannon's method to only do in
Yeah.
person,
I
but
agree.
I can work online for those who are far away with Beyond Quantum Healing, and that
Yes.
works amazing as well
So
to
how do
help
people get hold
people.
of you?
Oh, they can get through to me on my website, which is Eve Soin, Eve Soin. If you go Chantal Anders, you'll find me in France. And
And we can put the details
yeah,
in the comments of
yeah.
this video as well.
Yeah, a V-SWAT-M, and then there's a French version and an EN version.
Yeah.
So you can read in English or in French. And I also, for guidance readings, I can do in person or online as well, or through WhatsApp. I can do that as well, the guidance readings. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
you can find me through there. And for yourself, Deidre, now you do astrology readings, and I have to say, I wish that parents um, would get astrology readings done for their children when they're born, and they teach this
Absolutely.
in school, because I think understanding oneself through astrology is an amazing tool,
It is.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I hope, as it was thousands of years ago, would you say, um, with Pythagoras and all those philosophers,
Mm.
astrology was respected as was
Yes.
numerology. I hope it's going to come back because I
Yeah.
think it's sorely missing
Yeah.
all this.
Right. So, and I offer past life readings because in your astrology, in your
Yes,
natal chart, your birth chart, are all the past life lessons. We have the nodes and the
really.
retrogrades, which show us exactly what your past life lessons are. And so, in a reading, we can look into those and identify them, and then we can go deeper into it through meditation. And I can do all of that with you
Okay.
online. Yeah, I don't do regressions with people online. What I tend to do instead
Mhm.
is an Akashic records, and we go and look in there and we look for
Oh, and
the
interesting.
stories from the
That's
other
great.
lifetimes. Because, like you, I think when
Yeah.
we're working with people on that very deep level, we need to be face
Yeah.
to face to be able to really protect and work with that energy safely.
Yeah. I that's what when doing QHHT, it's only in person. I prefer to work in person, though when I do online, it's wonderful as well. It's just you have to make sure the technology is 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
And I love the in-person contact with people
yes,
because you're going deep within things.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. The Akashic Records, where you have all the information from the Book of Life for each
yes,
person and to
absolutely.
discover, give great understanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely
And
fantastic.
for a lot of people, being able to read a book, which is what the Akashic Records is, a library of all the
Yeah.
lifetimes everybody's ever lived on planet Earth. And so to be able to read a book about something that you might have been through with another person that was very traumatic or very upsetting is much
Yeah.
better than reliving it. I mean, when we work with people one on one, I'm sure that you actually ask them to go in and look more closely at that lifetime. But when we're
Yeah.
working, on online, it's much easier to be
Mhm.
able to use, like, read a book about it rather than actually be in it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super interesting. And
Yeah.
this has been wonderful talking with you.
Yeah, it's been
So
lovely
to
talking to you
to
too.
to find you, Deirdre, you're starwiseastrology dot
Yes.
com. Is that
No,
right?
starwise.com. So I'll also put
Starwise.com.
my contact in
Apologies.
the detail below. So
Brilliant.
starwise-ated.com, and you can, yeah, contact me there. There's my website with all my what I offer there, the past life readings and the healing and the other
Yeah.
readings and things too. Yeah, it's all there.
And you're in the beautiful country of New Zealand. After New York, New Zealand is one of the places
Gosh,
I
they're
always
sort
got
of
drawn
streets
to.
apart from one another, New York and New
I
Zealand.
know. I know. It's just absolutely such a beautiful place. I mean, that New York, other places in the world. I mean, there are, and that's another thing. Maybe we could close up this wonderful talk with you is there are, I know despite all the chaos going on in the world, there are so many beautiful places in the
Yes,
world. And
and
wherever
beautiful people.
yeah, amazing people. Wherever all of you who are listening live, look at how beautiful where you live is. Now, obviously, if you're somewhere that's just, had some big difficulties, I'm hoping that you have a place special that you can go to. But in most places in the world, there are some beautiful places and
And,
just
and
fantastic.
if you haven't got a beautiful place to go, go within because you're beautiful on the inside. Go into
Yeah,
meditation, go into your soul because everybody has a beautiful soul. It's the humanness that we coat ourselves on in this lifetime that
yeah,
isn't always so nice, but everything's beautiful on the inside. So again, if there's chaos outside of you, find your connection inside of you, find your inner peace, and then nothing can touch you. You feel very
and
safe, very
also.
secure.
If you're in a war zone, whether it's symbolic or technically, know that everything's maybe in rubble at the moment, in your emotional life or physically, but know that a new beginning's coming up for you.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
is a great transformation, which is represented by the tarot card number 13,
yeah,
the death card, but which means transformation.
yeah.
So just know that this is coming to an end for you. So
Yeah,
you're
and
coming
also
up to
remember
something
that you
new.
chose to be here at this time. So if
Yeah.
you've chosen to
Yeah.
be here at this time, you've chosen to play a role in what's going on. So wake up to what your role might be. I mean, at the very, very least, you find your inner peace. And because then that's what you can radiate out. And that's the least we can do to help the world. There's lots of other things we can do as well. But just being
Yeah.
at peace within yourself is creating an energy that feeds out to the collective. So there's more peace to go around, basically. So if we could
Yeah.
all do that, then peace becomes the way forward rather than war.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you,
Well,
Chantal, for joining me
you're
today.
so welcome. Thank you, Deirdre, and look forward to doing another talk sometime. And okay, so
Okay.
speak to you
Okay.
soon.
Thank
So
you.
you're going to stop recording now,
I
and
am.
then
So, yeah.
we'll say goodbye privately to each other.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.